And then in 300 years, when, your great-great-great-grandkids are going to be on Mars and some asteroid and some comet circling, Neptune, there'll be forms of interaction. They'll be a bit longer, but
For sure.
they will work.
Hey there, are you new to voice acting, looking to configure your DAW and maybe struggling with all the things you need to do to get it to work for Voiceover? I've got a class, totally free, no obligation, called Configuring Reaper 6 for Voiceover that will walk you through everything you need to do to make Reaper into just the perfect configuration to do voiceover work. I'll have a link in the description, no obligation, totally free, broken up into chapters, tell you everything that you need to do. So I hope that helps. Now, on to the interview. Thanks so much. I'd like to introduce Rebekah Wilson. Rebekah is a tech developer, a composer, a musician, and she's also the co-founder of Source Elements. Now, many of you may know Source Elements for the product Source Connect, which allows people like voice actors to connect two studios together with a high-quality connection. And I'm so grateful that she could come and talk to us today about Source Connect, about collaboration over long distance, and about the tech that brings us together across the globe. Rebekah, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. Really great to talk to you.
I do want to say right up front that as a member of the voiceover community, we owe you and your team at Source Elements just a huge debt of gratitude for the past 2.5 years. Those of us who had Source Connect were able to transition from working in studios all the time to working from home, essentially without skipping a beat. And it was 100% of my gigs, it was Source Connect that made that possible. I was just able to connect to studio. So I do want to say, for all of the voice actors who have Source Connect, thank you so much to you and your team. It really helped us a lot. Really grateful.
It's been an incredible time these last couple of years, a real partnership between worlds. Certainly.
I can only imagine. For those in my audience who have never used any Source Elements products, like, how do you describe the range of products that Source Elements offers?
We're really essentially about saying, you can work from wherever you want to work. And for the longest time, that's meant saying, okay, you can have a studio that is not, directly in the same location as where other people are working. So we've been really focused on helping you work remotely. So of course, during the pandemic, that became, something we all got to know very well. And now since the pandemic, and as we've seen people shift back to wanting to work together, but sometimes and in some ways and some part of the day or some part of the week, or maybe they go on vacation and they're still in another studio. And now it's becoming this really interesting sort of hybrid set of working, these new workflows that are needed, that are new. And it's so exciting for us. We're all getting to start again on imagining what we need to build. But essentially, yes, this remote working. Mike, I don't know, did you ever have an ISDN box in your studio?
I didn't, not in my home studio. I had used ISDN but I had to go to another studio, and
right.
I might connect from, Pittsburgh to LA or something like that.
Exactly.
But it was never available at home.
Yeah. So if you had to then, make a call, across the country, you'd have to go to a studio and they'd dial that in. Or if you were using it enough every day, maybe, there were people who did get to have it in their own studios if it made sense. It was, in the early 2000s, the internet just got fast enough that my co-founder and I, were like, we can do this on the internet. And this is just before Skype. So, there weren't really a lot of examples of how you could do this. We just went gung-ho, being young and, not knowing enough and knowing just too much to be dangerous. And
didn't know it was impossible at the time.
No, we did not. So, and the internet was really bad.
You were really ahead of the curve. I mean, it's the first thing that I can think of. Like you said, predates Skype, which was really sort of the first, I think, high quality connection over the internet that people experienced. But you predated it. Was it just replacing ISDN was the idea? Is that where it came from? Just trying to disrupt ISDN?
What was important to me was growing up in an island very far away. I'm from New Zealand.
Ah, right.
And I spent the first 20 years of my life there. So growing up in the 70s and 80s, where culture was 2 months a year behind,
Interesting.
That's you kind of it's hard to imagine now because it doesn't like that anymore. There are very few children growing up now not knowing what's trending on TikTok, but we did not have trending. We had what was happening 2 years ago finally made it to New Zealand, if it did.
I certainly remember that as a kid, being in the States, we would get the movies and then they would get sent to Europe, and then progressively there was an intentional huge delay. They would exhaust a whole market before they moved it, I think. And now it's, the global premiere of everything.
Yeah,
it's really changed quite a bit.
Then in the mid-90s, when I first got on the internet, I am at a computer, I'm sitting at a terminal, and suddenly I'm, text chatting to somebody in the other side of the world. And that's just, the colloquial blew my mind.
Yeah, right.
That I will never forget that feeling of the world like opening up. And so I've just been enthralled since.
And now we take it so for granted that you and I can can do this, and that we've got these tools. We really do take it for granted. Before we go into some of the more esoteric things, there are lots of different products in Source Elements that you offer. Do you want to just thumbnail like what the different range, what different uses that people would have for your different products? Like what markets do you really target with your products?
Yeah, of course. So Source Connect is a broad range. One of the big uses, of course, is voice acting. So to do promo work, anything that's short turnaround, it's really great that you can just use it from where you are. You can, keep one of these like microphones in your pocket, and anytime it's needed, like boom, do a directed session versus just recording a file and sending it off and hoping it's good, but then getting a message 2 hours later saying I need a change, or it's 2 seconds too long, and then you're like, oh crap, I'm at the beach already. So we save those things happening. Yeah, directed sessions. So it's primarily about directed sessions. It's about being together and the same time to enable to make the work go smoother, to make it go faster, to make it be better quality. Because when we work together in time, when we're sharing time together, that's what humans were made for. We're made for this. We communicate by responding to each other. And so Source Connect is very much about that. And it's so all the other tools that we make, Source Live, which is for high quality video, or Source Nexus, which is to routing tools. So for example, if we were using Zoom or Microsoft Teams, you could record that into Pro Tools at the same time as you're, say, using Source Connect, and you can have everyone coming back, and you could use your Pro Tools, mixer and all of these things. So we help you be remote in the best ways possible that we know.
I've watched a number of your videos. I've watched a number of your videos over time. Like, I was really fascinated how you could you have an orchestra in one continent, the director in another continent, working with a voice actor in yet another continent, how you can bring it all together. But it's more than just, I think the products I've seen, it's more than just the ability to talk face to face. You can also synchronize the video. You can have somebody press play on the video in one continent, and it will play on the other one on both sessions for things like ADR and for overdub kind of scenarios. You can do all sorts of stuff with it, can't you?
Yeah, exactly. It's for producing media. It's for working with time-based media.
I'm sure you've got a lot of war stories over the past few years. Can you think of times when Source Connect has like really rescued sessions, or has it bailed people out? Of anything that you've heard of?
A voice actor that we love. I'm not going to use any names because I've got too many favorites, and I don't want to make anyone feel bad. But we love so many. Talking about promo work, being told, like this has to be done now, and pulling over the car on the side of the highway and doing an important session with Source Connect from the laptop with 4G. Those kind of things. The things that makes me happiest is hearing stories about people saying, I was able to be with my family at an important time.
Right.
This is hugely, hugely important, that there's a lot of heart that goes into what we do. The same for me. I've lived in 15 countries because of Source Connect.
Is that right?
Yeah. Because I've, when we made it, I was, in New Zealand, and then I moved to Australia, and then to Europe, and then I've been able to, spend a summer in Chicago, and then moved to Mexico, and I live in the Netherlands now, or I go to Portugal for the summer, and I'm going to Spain next week. I mean, I can keep working. And what an incredible thing that we have.
For sure. It's certainly been that's been my experience. I haven't traveled nearly as extensively as you, but I know that I can confidently say that I can work wherever I have an internet connection and a quiet enough studio.
Exactly.
I can work anywhere. It doesn't matter where I live. I don't need to be. I happen to be close to New York City, but I don't have to be in New York City anymore. And so many of the studios I work with, they're like, as long as your booth sounds pro, you can be wherever you want. And it really is true.
Yeah. You can turn a closet into a recording studio in no time.
Absolutely. I want to detour into something. I watched. You did a keynote from a web audio conference a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and 2019 now. It feels like a lifetime ago.
And you had it was about being latency native. So latency being just the delay between conversations, and it really got me. It really got me thinking. Can we talk about the concept of latency, what it means to us as people, what it means to how we interact with each other? It really got me thinking, and I'd love to explore more of your thoughts on it if we could.
The beautiful thing that's fascinating is that we forget or we don't think about. There's latency in every single interaction, and there's so much latency. And then all we've done is gone and added a little bit more. But what's funny is that, this digital age has come so quickly and so suddenly. You and I have not evolved. Maybe our grandkids might, be latency native. We're like latency awkward. And but there's latency in the time it takes to process sound, the air it comes into your ear canal and turn it into electrical signals. Then there's latency, the time it takes that electrical signal to turn into something that your neurons can understand. And then there's time it takes your neurons to tell your conscious brain, hey, there's something going on. And then there's time for your conscious brain to go, what's that sound? I have to think, does it match anything I know? And so your cognitive latency is actually the highest latency of all. It's higher often than the internet latency, but we live. It's normal to us, so we don't experience it. We don't know that there's these latencies. If I, say to you like, let's clap in time, we can't just start doing it. We have to line ourselves up and look at each other and synchronize and go, okay, 1, 2, 3, because we know we can't just synchronize. We have to process that. And what I love so much is the internet's just gone, here's some more latency for you. Have fun. You'll be fine in a couple of generations.
Well, it really is interesting because when we started talking about latency, I feel like the digital world, while we have more capability, we have introduced a lot more latency into our lives. I think about, when I've lost my phone and I have my family member, could you call me on the phone? And we're right next to each other on our cell phone.
Right.
But there's a half second, a half second of latency, a quarter second, half second of latency that is just sort of inbuilt into every phone.
Yeah.
But you and I are of an age that we remember when telephones were a copper wire connection between us. And so actually our analog, there was a faster connection between us when we would talk on the phone, for example, 40 years ago than today. That latency got worse, I think.
Yeah. Well, over distance, because I don't know if you ever made a long distance call, back when it was on copper, but you were talking about 2 seconds, like switching latencies.
Yeah, for
Hi,
sure.
London.
And you'd really have to wait.
Hi. Right. And you'd have to slow down and wait till the other person. I mean, that's why they have, on the radio, like over,
right,
have to signal.
Right.
I'm done talking. It's your turn.
I'm out. Do you think that there's a point at which latency becomes very problematic and then not problematic? What I'm thinking about is the when we have a latency between our conversation of say a quarter second, a half second, 1 second, very unpleasant. It makes it very difficult to communicate. But then when we have latency of 2 or 3 minutes, it seems like it's much easier for us to deal with a very, very long latency than this sort of valley between maybe 30 milliseconds and 2000 milliseconds.
I don't know, but I've just got more time to cognitively process what's going on, formulate a more elegant reply with better grammar. So I just appreciate that. But then you can't do off the cuff, comedy and stuff. So, and that's an interesting topic you bring up. Like, these latencies we have right here, we can laugh together, we can make jokes. It's low latency enough to do that. But you add another person who might be in another country. And if I see, if you guys were closer together and you make a joke and then I see the other person start laughing before, that's going to disrupt my comprehension of the joke. So I'd be like, oh, what have I missed? Those few milliseconds can really make a difference. So between one-to-one, the internet latency is kind of fine for communication. It's when you have groups of people, then we're in new territory, and this is where the fun starts.
Yeah. I also feel like I didn't realize sort of how much thinking we can do in a half second. Certainly when I've had phone conversations or when we've had these conversations, if there is just that little tiny bit of latency where you say a joke and you wait for it to land on the other end. And then you can do a lot of thinking. Did I say it wrong? Did they not get the joke? Did I insult them? What happened? Did we get disconnected? Like, you can do a whole lot of thinking.
And to go back to acting, to voice acting, this is really important, because that timing, acting is timing, performing is timing, it's rhythm.
Right.
So that landing of your note, of your words, you got to get that right.
You got to get it exactly right.
So you have to become native with the latency.
Right. I know that so many, my wife is in theater, and so many theaters, when they transitioned from having no audiences to trying to do things over Zoom, they would consistently, especially when comedy was involved, they would fall apart, because it is so much about timing. And if you had 5 people on a Zoom, trying to do a performance, that latency, no jokes would land. You couldn't go fast enough.
This is where it gets exciting. So maybe traditional theater that they're going to do in a theater room isn't going to work on a network performance environment. What kind of environment, what kind of theater does work in that environment? We are very, very good at being creative and coming up with new forms of art. So imagine what, teenagers are doing, right now when they're, FaceTiming each other, and they've got 10 or 20 of their classmates online. They're making it work.
For sure. There's the DAW I use is called Reaper. And
that's great.
And it's great. And there's a component built into it called Ninjam. And that whole thing is built on huge latencies. And I think there's really new and interesting ways that people are collaborating, because you decide how many measures of latency do we want? Do we want to be 4 or 16 bars behind each other? And all of a sudden you've got new kinds of music where you're responding to ideas that happened 10, 20, or 30 seconds ago. Really interesting.
It's fascinating.
In your keynote, you talked about how we will innovate around things like latency. And I also think that we may become nostalgic for it at some point. We seem to become nostalgic for the things that were problems. A long time ago, we've got tape saturation plugins. We've got video plugins that make it look like VCR tracking errors. There's music that's all around glitches that sound like you're skipping CD that we turn into things that we love.
Where's the plugin that chews your tape and doesn't give it back, right?
Right. I can only imagine that in 20 years, there'll be kids that look back and go, boy, I remember when I was little and there was latency, and somehow that may be a thing that they innovate.
Well, there was MPEG compression, It's like, my friends used to look glitchy and sometimes the video would stop. That's not going to happen anymore when everyone's on 5G or 6G or 8G, whatever's next,
And yet Instagram, cut its teeth on its popularity by making our perfect digital photos look like the crappy photos when the film had expired and there was light leaks. And
I remember that back in the day. It was the cool Instagram days.
Right. Those original filters.
Yeah.
Where do you think that we go from here? Do you think that we'll be able to at some point? Is it compression that we need? Is it higher bandwidth that we need, that we would be able to make jazz together remotely? in real time? Do you think that we'll get to that point? And do you think that it's
we
in
have
the horizon?
I've been doing research with some musicians, and it works very well as soon as they understand the implications of the instrument. That is the network. The network becomes, another artifact, another type of instrument. The same way that if you're a tuba player, you're not going to expect to be as, quick and nimble with your fingers as you might be with the trumpet. You can't go, you just can't. So you just slow down and you make allowances, and then you go big, you do other things. So network latency is just another characteristic of the instrument.
Yeah.
But what we do need, definitely, and this is going to happen, so much more bandwidth. We need lots of it so that we don't have to compress so much and we can send more. Because compression, it's not just the internet that it takes up, it's your CPU or your GPU. The time it's taking to compress this data, the VP9 codec or whatever we're using right now, AVC, that's, my CPU is being used, and that takes time. So more that we can just send raw data from the camera, that speeds things up. And also one of the other big things is what's called network jitter. So right now, I send a stream of 1 meg, but maybe I've got a 2 meg stream, and then my, kids come home. I don't have, but if they did, they would be playing on the PlayStation, whatever, and they'd start using it. And suddenly we're trying to fight for the bandwidth, and you get jitter and packet loss. And so I have to give myself an extra buffer time to make that stream smooth. And so those are things that we have to do today. You can't be without a network buffer. And so we're already adding those, 200, 300 millisecond latencies just to be smooth enough. So those can go down to closer to the speed of light with technology growth.
Yeah.
That will happen.
I suppose it will. And I'm so looking forward. I'm so looking forward to those days when really the walls between us can come all the way down, where we don't deal with, the fidelity loss that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
Right. just as we watch each other right now, all of that compression, we're losing the fidelity of how we see each other, how we hear each other, and I think that definitely affects our ability to communicate. We can't read faces as well.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, and I wonder what the folks, the young people who are, born in this century that are living through this now, that it's just ingrained in the way they communicate. They didn't have the benefit of, knowing what analog communication was beforehand. They've only known these experiences. I wonder how that will shape their experiences.
I have a great anecdote about that. My nephews, who are now young teenagers, back when they were smaller and would still play with me as teenagers grow up, damn it. And I would be having dinner in Europe, and they would be having breakfast in New Zealand, and my brother would put the iPad on the breakfast table, and we'd chat and say hi and stuff. And then after breakfast, they'd be like, "Come on, Rebekah, we're going to go and play." And they take the iPad, and they're doing things like hiding me under a blanket or running outside and showing me the chickens, or seeing who can run around faster, like throwing the iPad because they're kids. It was just for them like I was there,
right?
Because I'm interacting. They don't know, really no difference,
right?
And it's just I'm giving them my energy and time.
And I certainly see it with I got teenage kids, and just with the way they play video games, they don't. They still like to go out and play or whatever it is, but so much of their time, their hanging out time with their friends is headset, microphone, video games. Even if they're just mindlessly playing the video games, they're having the chats that we might have had when we went over to somebody's house. For them, it's very much the same experience, it seems.
Maybe it's more collaborative, because I remember going over to my friends' houses and they'd be playing a video game and I'd be watching. So now we're all, maybe, who knows? Maybe it's all more interactive now. than it was for us. I
Right.
don't know. Of course, we'd go on bike rides, but yeah.
Certainly could be. With the products that you guys that Source Elements is making, do you think it's how do you think you're shaping any of the industry as we move forward? Do you think you're changing the way music is made, movies are made, television is made? What does 5 years look like from now? What does 10 years look like from now for these products?
Definitely the big one is inclusion, because, if you imagine 20, 30 years ago, if you want to be a voice actor, you got to live in LA or New York. And you got to afford to live in LA and New York, and you got to look the part of what a voice actor would be in LA and New York. And, and that there's a lot of the world that doesn't fit in those boxes, or can't afford to fit in those boxes, or their family doesn't want to live in LA or New York. So, we're allowing people's voices to be so much more broad and diverse.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Certainly with the the electronics that we all have now, with the digital workstations, the availability of really high quality componentry that we have available to us, bridging that final mile of being able to, okay, now let's talk to each other and find each other and communicate and collaborate. That's really interesting.
And then you also see about the kind of stories that are being told now, like Netflix is going out and saying, hey, South Africa, you've got great stories. We can share these now because it makes sense. And because we can afford to have actors who can do dubbing in various languages around, Africa, and, get those accents and get those people telling their stories, have them being the video editors as well, because, we all know that editing is a way of how we shape things as well. So, we get to really share who we are with the wider world, because, I grew up with Hollywood media to such a huge degree, or certainly British as well when I was younger, because it's what New Zealand had. So those two, voices shaped me. And I'm glad that younger people now have so many more voices that can, they've got access to.
I suppose it's a double-edged sword in some respects, because I have family in Sydney, Australia, and we're here in the States. And when we talk, over FaceTime or whatever, they have teenage kids and we have teenage kids, and their experiences are very similar now. So I guess in the diversity of experience, also for people, I guess, of a certain, socioeconomic status, or because we're familiar, but they've seen the same TikToks. They've seen the same Instagram memes. So in one case, we've shrunk the world, but I don't know. I think the way our kids have, at least my kids have, it shaped their opinion. And I don't know what that will mean for us 50 years from now, 100 years from now.
But it also means that they can go out there and create really easily. When I was growing up, I had to have like a 2-track tape reel to be able to record myself. I mean, until I could, I bought my first 4-track. It was a revelation. It was just so freeing,
Yeah, I think, certainly for even, now as a working professional in this, but, my kids, they can go through and they can, it's not unusual for them to say, oh yeah, well, I've got a guy who's a digital editor and they're over in this continent, but I've got somebody else who's an artist and they're doing the motion graphics and they're in, this time zone. And for them, it's just a very, very natural way to work.
Yeah. And that's fantastic. Yeah.
It is. It really is amazing.
And then in 300 years, when, your great grandkids are going to be on Mars and some asteroid and some comet circling, Neptune, there'll be forms of interaction. They'll be a bit longer, but
for sure,
they will work. 20-minute delay, anyone?
Yeah, right. It has been such an enlightening conversation. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about with respect to what Source Elements is doing? Is there anything else?
The hugest thing we've been doing these last months is getting our academy really rolling. So, education is hugely important for us, and something that maybe people didn't realize about us was before the pandemic, very small business, like my co-founder and I and a handful of people, we ran everything. and then of the pandemic, making like, okay, everybody needs this now. It was a huge change for us. And what happened was that suddenly Robin and I didn't know everybody by name. And, I'm sure we had these personal conversations with so many people that we can't have now because of the scale. And that's really sad for us. So what we can do instead is share the knowledge we have, and then, bring communities. And what's so great to be having conversations like this is to share knowledge. So we have an academy with some classes. We've got a new class coming out, I think, in a week or two, on advanced audio recording, which is really amazing. That's Robert, who I hope will come and talk with you at some point. He's just a huge source of information about how to do remote recording really, really well for voice actors or musicians or engineers. And so this course will, it's like, thinking about remote recording from the internet's perspective from day one, so coming in fresh, saying, this is how I'm going to work. Most of my work is remote now. What do I need to know? How can I make this work the best? And so then that goes back into inform our products. So the products that are going to be coming out from us in the future are also very much informed on these new practices as well.
Well, I'll definitely put links in the description to, I think that's at academy.sourceelements.com.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I'll put links to that because I was like, I didn't realize that there was a Source Connect certification. I was like, I should probably go and get my certification for Source Connect.
And if I can, anybody who's watching this and, is in a situation where whatever reason is difficult to purchase any of this things, please reach out to us. We can put in the email, maybe diversity@sourceelements.com. We have an amazing diversity program because, we also believe it's important to share the education with people who need it,
fantastic.
Who maybe can't access it at the moment.
That's fantastic. I'll absolutely put that in the description. That's really helpful.
The previous iteration of us was very much focused on those small group of people who were like, I'm going to try out this technology. I'm going to make it work. Maybe it's not always perfect because somebody there doesn't understand to plug in the right thing. And so we ended up making all of these tools and utilities to plug all those holes. It's like, how do I route this to that? Oh, you get a cable from your Mac and then you plug it to the Windows and they're like, oh, that's not going to work. Okay, let's make a tool. And so we evolved through this, organically through trying to fix all these problems. And so now we arrive today going, all right, how about now we make it easy to use for everybody, not just the intrepid few. And so that's our next, evolution as a company.
Great. That's great. Yeah. It will be very appreciated because it has been probably among the most reliable tools. The tools really have, your tools really have made it much easier for me.
You wait. It's going to get much, much easier. We're on it.
I look forward to having you back on to tell us all about it. Is there anything else that you think that my audience would be interested in talking about? Please,
anybody's very welcome to contact us. We are so open to responding to any questions on email. Like, I want to go to the mountains. How can I work with my 4Gs like this? Well, we have things to help to make that work. We have technology even to make it work when the internet's not so good. We've been doing this for years. Trust us. If you're not sure, we know.
Just watching you talk and listening to you talk about your products, it really just gets me so jazzed about the future, so jazzed about the way we will be able to interact and be able to create and be able to innovate, even as just a little solo person with a tiny budget and just, a collection of friends, how we can create new and innovative things. And it's thanks to products like yours. Really, really grateful for your time. It's been such an enjoyable conversation.
Really a pleasure.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.